Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin. Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin.
We never got it right. We never got it wrong. All those nights we'd fight, we never let it go. Feel the rain pour down, watch it tear through the light, watch the clouds float by and leave you cold in the night, and leave you cold in the night.
So you were saying that you started reading what, Michael?
Alex Hormozy. He's like a marketing. So he's written a couple books, $100 million leads and $100 million offers. And it sounds super cheesy. It sounds like scammy, right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing is like he gives away all this content for free. And so, yeah, that's been really helpful for me to help, just understand a bit more about, creating solid offers that like people really want to opt into and buy, and just marketing in general, content creation, and how much you have to pump out, but how much it pays off in the long run. It's like he's been talking a lot about, I highly recommend follow him on Twitter or something like Alex Hormozy, or it's probably just at Alex Hormozy. I don't know. But he just always talks about, the valley of despair, right? Whenever like the going gets tough and like, that's what so many people go through, whether it's on a personal level or like a startup level, business level, whatever. And a lot of times what happens is once it starts getting really tough, like that's whenever a lot of people quit, but it's not like they just quit and just give up but it's more like they might make some radical pivot that perhaps is premature to the point where if they had just kept going and stayed on the same course, perhaps, it would have worked out in the end. But sometimes we all get so distracted.
Such a good advice right there.
Yeah. So
what do you define radical pivot? Just so.
Like radical pivot being like, oh, this is just not working. I don't think this is going to work at all. Like, let's just do something like totally different. Right. Or like totally off the wall different, as opposed to, like basically giving up on the dream and just, you've heard of many startups that have had successes and stuff like this though too. Right.
Right.
It's like they have this and their idea that they end up going.
Slack, right? Like Slack's like the major one that I think of.
It's like totally different. So there's success in this too. But I think what he's saying is oftentimes as startups, as, individuals, businesses, whatever, there comes a point in time whenever you're going through some shit, we're like, shit, like this just does not seem working, or it is working, but it's like really slow. And like, what do we do? And blah, blah, blah. And like, sometimes that's whenever, you just have to like turn it up, like work harder, or sometimes you have a really successful, thriving business, but like you've reached a plateau. And sometimes, so his whole thing too is like, it's not just like do the thing that works really well and just fucking push that to the max, instead of like coasting along, as opposed to looking for all these other opportunities, all these other shiny things to like add on to your business. Be like, well, if there's something that works well, he has like, I guess his sales pitch is something called acquisition.com. I'm like marketing for him, right? Like this is
good stuff.
It's called acquisition.com.
It's all tangential to what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. He acquires like startups or like, minority stakes in companies that he believes are good companies, but they just haven't done certain things that he's really good at enough. So they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I guess we better just start. Like we're at 1 million monthly recurring revenue, right? Which is awesome, but it's like they're just stuck there and they can't get out. Like, and
how is that a bad thing?
Well, it's like, well, let's say if you want to grow, because ultimately, because it's never going to end.
Well,
like
the growth,
the journey is the destination, right? So one of these days, like you're gonna reach like 1 million monthly recurring revenue, and you're like, oh, we just we're just stagnant. We just can't go. Maybe we need to do something else. And he'll come in and look at your company and be like, no, dude, like, well, what's your content creation schedule look like? Oh, I do like, 5 things a week. He's like, you need to be doing 50. Or like, oh, what's this look like? Oh, I do this much a week. Well, you got to 10X that. Like sometimes if you just like maybe make the right hires or focus on the right things and just like 10X that, the stuff that works instead of chasing the shiny objects, like your business explodes. And that's literally what he does. He buys these companies that are good companies, but they feel like they've just reached the pinnacle.
Yeah.
They're like, God, there's nothing else we can do. And he's like, yo, you guys suck. Like, what are your metrics on this? And he just blows them and they like 10X their value. And they're like, what the fuck? How? Like, we thought it was done. We thought we were going to have to do another business, like add on another feature.
Yeah.
We're like, nah, dude. So sometimes like you're in this valley of despair, like of suck. You're like, man, like whether you're really successful or you're like a startup trying to get off the ground. And sometimes you just have like push what works 10 times harder and you'll see success. So I don't even remember what got us on this topic.
We were talking
before we started recording.
Before we started recording, we were talking about just some stuff like, just kind of what we're seeing in the space. I think it's really hard for Bitcoin companies to kind of do this. I think a lot of us realize we have product market fit for the most part, right? That's like one thing. And then the second thing is like how much, a lot of us share the same users or the same crowds, right? So you see a lot of that in the Bitcoin company where a lot of people are sharing, the like, oh, you have this kind of reach. Let's work together so we have both the same reach. And you see a lot of that going on. So that works too. And for the most part, Bitcoin companies are helpful in doing that with each other. Yeah. And then there's this other part where it's just like the revenue side, right? Yeah. Especially like Bitcoin revenue and then fiat revenue. Like which one should you be gathering? Because a lot of the stuff that, or at least for speaking for Plub Lab, a lot of the stuff that we have is just more on the fiat overhead stuff, right? So like for me, it's like, okay, how do I generate enough revenue that covers a lot of the overhead here? Because the Bitcoin stuff, like that's great, but a lot of the times you want to save that Bitcoin for hackathons or for whatever you're trying to do. Just from Oshi side, when you think of the revenue, and we can get into the products that you guys are launching and all that kind of stuff. But when you think about revenue, how do you think of it more of a long-term thing? Because you're more on the software side of things as far as instead of like us with the, real world infrastructure stuff.
Yeah. So we think about it as more of a long-term thing. Our new product that we launched, it's still, in the realm of Bitcoin rewards.
Dude, it's really
obviously.
good, dude.
Thank you.
It's really good.
Yeah. But ultimately, we're trying to focus a bit more on the everyday consumer instead of just on the Bitcoiners, as much as we love them. And ultimately that opens the door to a lot of new opportunities. And so, what was the question? I totally
just on the revenue side. How do you think through the revenue side? Because, dude, like I'll just kind of tee it up for you. Because like a lot of the stuff I'm looking at the Plub Lab loyalty. Look, dude. So let me just give out the stats. We have our rewards balance right now is 549,000 sats. We have a total of 70 customers that have used us through Oshi. Total purchase value is $19,845. Total sat rewards is 831,000 sats. Total sats claim, which is surprising. You would think like people would be like, oh, I don't want to claim it, but 712,815 sats is how many sats people have claimed from Plub Lab. And so we give an average of 1% sats back. And there's 100% return rate. Returning customer rate is 100% right now. Right. So by me personally, we had talked early on about this and then getting Oshi built into Plub Labs, the fabric of how we invoice and all this type of stuff. By us doing that, dude, up and to the right.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah.
And dude, by the way, for people that are listening at home, if you're running a business or anything like that, definitely look into loyalty. We'll talk more about it here, but this has helped us not only on the social media side, but also just retaining customers. Right.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. I appreciate those insights. So we're going to totally like revamp the dashboard too. It's going to have way more metrics.
Beautiful. You're going to have more metrics?
Like so many more metrics for you. Like
so sick.
Referral rates and like, you know, affiliates, loyalty tier, whatever you want to add. So we'll have a bunch of other stuff on there that'll be super helpful. So we're excited about that. That's one of the things we're working on right now. But yeah, I mean, ultimately how we view revenue, we're effectively like a SaaS, right? So it's like, you're going to pay monthly for this. But for now, like we're just really trying to, you know, I'm somebody that really, you know, in order to really truly sell the product and feel really great about like totally shilling it, like I want to see results. Like I want the businesses we're working with to see, you know, results undeniably, right? And so right now we're onboarding a bunch of businesses and we're just like, hey, you know, we do have a 5% fee just to like load up the sats. Cause you can do it with card.
I'd rather not think about it, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
completely
just like,
honest.
hey, like load it up, whatever. I mean, it's basically like passing on the payment.
I think you actually just top it up for us and I don't have to think about it, which is great. That's what
it
I
automatically
want.
just like keeps going. And ultimately, the set it and forget it is really nice. It's like a little recharge. And so, ultimately, the more businesses we get, the more we'll be able to be like, oh yeah, like we helped like Beef Initiative get to a return customer who's like, 50%. Like we have helped Pleb Lab get more, not only just retention of their customers, but also acquisitions. So now there's more customer acquisition. Like they're getting customers from places where maybe they wouldn't have gotten them before because, you know, they're hopping on a website and they're like, oh, here's all these different like merchants that are offering Bitcoin rewards. And so that stuff has been really, really helpful. And ultimately we're having people earn rewards that wouldn't have otherwise earned Bitcoin or even touched Bitcoin for perhaps years. Right. And they're like getting some sats and they're like, oh, like this is kind of cool. Like where else can I get sats? And like, they'll discover Pleb Lab or they'll discover like Claire and Fritz or like Farmer Bill's Provisions or like all these different places, right, that they would have never heard of otherwise, simply because now they can get rewards. And so whenever we think of revenues for us, it's like our first focus is providing like as much value as humanly possible to the businesses and just listening to your feedback and other business owners' feedback. And like the revenue's going to come. Like right now we're just onboarding businesses. Yeah, we take a little cut like of the rewards that are distributed effectively, but eventually, you know, we want to look at a business and be like, oh yeah, like here's what we can do. Like we can increase your customer retention. Like let's say, you run like a, you know, $1 million, you know, recurring revenue e-commerce business, right, with Shopify. And we can increase your customer retention by 5%, which is going to increase your monthly recurring revenue by 25%. So, you know, you'll pay us $250 a month plus however many rewards you're giving out, which is effectively a marketing budget. And then, you know, you're going to get $250K in revenue for $250 a month. Like, is that worth it to you? And then on the flip side, it's like also you're helping, you know, thousands of customers a month or more take their first steps into Bitcoin and earn some sats. And those sats are going to be worth more over time. And they're likely going to spend those sats at your business whenever like their $10 in rewards is now worth, you know, 50. It's like, where do I spend them? Where Bitcoin is accepted and you accept Bitcoin. So here you go. Boom. So it's like they get a 5X on their marketing budget, basically, let's say, if the Bitcoin price goes up. So anyway, long story, but yeah, that's how we view revenue, providing maximum value to the business now and worrying more about, you know, the revenue stream later.
Yeah, dude, I've been excited about this whole loyalty Oshi dashboard since you showed me. Like, what was that? Like back in February, March, somewhere around there, April. I don't remember what date, when it was, but dude, I was just blown away. Cause so during that time, because we've been testing it early and I've been giving you feedback, dude, during that time. So obviously the Nostr dev stuff and the Pleb dev stuff that the guys here in the lab make, like all that stuff is winning because they're just like immediately they'll tweet out, like random plebs will tweet out, be like, yo, Sat's back on this, on Oshi stuff. Like they love that stuff, right? Because it saves them money and they get to learn and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the other thing just here, just on the hackerspace side, like it keeps people in Like,
Right.
like why wouldn't you want to pay your your hackerspace membership? You're
Right.
getting sats back. Like it feels good. I think even one of the guys said this is just too good to be true. And I thought it was a scam. They're like, Car, is this a scam? I was like, no, like this is Oshi. Why?
Yeah.
But it was just so good to be true because we have our memberships here, but they got back like 5 or whatever the amount is that we give back.
Right.
10 or I don't know what it is. And then they're like, this is just, you're giving me this many sats for free. And I was like, yeah, that's just for,
it's like a Pleb Lab dividend.
yeah, just for being a part of Pleb Lab. Like,
yeah. And I think
like,
it's really cool. I mean, loyalty stuff has been around a while.
but not like this though. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Not like this. I mean, this is different. This is an open loyalty network where the points are the sats, and these sats are redeemable anywhere Bitcoin is, accepted, and you can save it. You can withdraw them to your own wallet. Like you're not locked in to like Pleb Lab points, right? Like you can use these anywhere, right? You're not locked into like Starbucks stars or whatever. And I think there is going to be this shift. And it's certainly not as big of a shift as like going from this, fiat currency standard to a Bitcoin standard, but it's like a step down from that, right? Where it's like this, intranet of points and stars and miles and whatever to this internet of points and stars. It's like a similar, analogy where it's like, what is that going to unlock? I mean, I don't know exactly, but in the interim, it's going to unlock this thing where people are going to be able to discover more businesses. I think that's probably like the best thing. There's a big acquisition. And hey, the more you spend, the more you earn, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's really cool, man. I kind of going back to because the last time you guys had did an update, it was to the redesign of the app, right? Mm-hmm. And then this time, completely, such a forward thinking shift into how you reimagine these type of rewards that you're talking about. Yeah. That's one thing, Michael, I've always said this about you. Like, you don't just have one idea. Like you have like these brilliant ideas all the time. And like me personally, like whenever I'm thinking through stuff just here at the lab, and I'm like, man, who do I need to talk to? And it's always like, oh, let me reach out to Michael, because Michael will actually give me some clear delineations in the way I'm thinking through things, dude.
Well, thanks, man.
What is it about Oshi that, I know, because you've been doing it for 2.5 years at this point. Like, what is it about Oshi that you just get really well? Because like what I know you're a hardcore Bitcoiner and stuff like that, but like what is it about Oshi that really drives you?
So I guess we can take a trip down memory lane. We first started with the Oshi app, and the object was to get people to spend Bitcoin, and get rewarded. So, you use your debit or credit card and you get cash back, right? So you're using dollars to get dollars back. So we're like, what if you use Bitcoin and get Bitcoin back, right? Or a discount. And, we started dreaming this up like end of 2018 or something, right? I think we started really building it started building it maybe like mid to late 2019. I don't remember exactly. But ultimately the vision is if you incentivize people to pay with Bitcoin, even people that aren't Bitcoiners might just pay with Bitcoin, right? So I think this is something that's really important that is not talked about enough.
Yeah, tell me.
So it's the realization that we came to, which in a way is kind of obvious in hindsight, but a lot of companies fell into this trap as well. And some people, I think, are still falling into this trap. And the trap is effectively that all you have to do is get businesses to accept Bitcoin, and then people are going to pay with Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoiners are going to all show up and everything's going to be great. That is not true. Okay, we'll stop. It happens. People do pay with Bitcoin, but we got a bunch of businesses signed up, and we had the incentive structures in place. And of course, there's no such thing as perfection. We didn't do it perfectly. Nobody's done it quote unquote perfectly. We did it as seamless as we could at the time, right? And the space is evolving very quickly, right? So ultimately, like I said, we found that, during the bull run, people would go and frequent these businesses every now and again, and they would pay with Bitcoin, whether it's in person or online or whatever. With the incentives in place, it was more helpful. and it promoted these businesses, and it's great. But, not to sound bearish, but man, like I talked with somebody recently who spent some time at Apple Pay, years at Apple Pay. And Apple Pay, I think, came out like, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. And it's Apple, right? It's like one of the biggest, if not the big, is Amazon the biggest?
As far as like
one of the biggest companies in the world, right? Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
They know their shit.
Yeah, they have a big war chest of fiat.
Yeah, man. Like Apple Pay knows what's up, right? They dominate the world with their products. And 50% of people in the US have an iPhone. 90% of those people that have an iPhone have their Apple Pay wallets set up with their favorite debit or credit card. And like, they're all ready to go and use Apple Pay, right? Apple Pay, 10 years later, I don't know exactly when it started to come up, but is only about 5 to 7% of retail commerce in the United States.
Is it really? Only 5? Wow.
It's very low. Okay. And half the United States has an iPhone. Every point of sale can accept Apple Pay. It's clearly easier to pay with. Like you just tap. You can load up your favorite debit or credit card on there very easily. It's all super easy. And you're using just dollars and you're just using the same phone. It's already built into your phone, boom, to tap, right?
Yeah.
And like very few people consistently use it, right? So let's just frame that. Let's think of that, right?
Yeah.
So what happens whenever you have, let's say you build Bitcoin into Apple Pay, right? Where it's a totally new currency. Let's say it's the same experience. I mean, it took, like I said, 8 to 10 years just for 5 to 7% of people to use Apple Pay. And it's the biggest company in the world, and it's a more seamless experience, and it's the same currency, right? So all in all, to say is that it's not like a Bitcoin problem per se. It's a human behavior problem.
Interesting.
I think for the longest time, we thought that the biggest hurdle was going to be just getting people to understand Bitcoin and then like providing incentives for them to use it, which surely is a lot, like providing incentives. But I mean, just look at Apple Pay, right? And then we think about Cash App Pay. I don't think very many people use Cash App Pay, right? Certainly less than Apple Pay.
As far as you mean like inside the app itself or
like on the Square terminal.
Oh,
you can actually pay with Cash App on there.
Yeah.
Like most merchants have it activated because it's like, why not, right?
Yeah.
And you can pay with Cash App Pay.
Right.
It's a QR code
right.
on the point of sale, and you just scan and pay, and it's super easy, and it comes out of your Cash App balance, and like most people have Cash App on their phone, and it's dollars, so that's familiar. Very few people use Cash App Pay, and that's effectively like the most perfect Bitcoin payment experience you can think of. If you think of a QR code at the time of payment that you just scan.
Because technically, have we tried it here in the lab? Because technically you could pay with Bitcoin.
You can't pay with Bitcoin.
Because it doesn't ask you to send, what do you want to send? It asks, does it cash
I don't think so. No, I think it's just cash only. But my point is that even if it was Bitcoin,
no one would probably use it.
No one's going to use it. And so I did a panel at the Grassroots Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Park. And it was something that I've just really been wanting to talk about. Not like to,
I was in the room.
That's right.
I heard you.
Not to hop on a soapbox, right?
Yeah.
But it's like
people don't want to hear that.
Just to let people know,
people don't want to hear that, Michael.
What we experienced. This is what we saw.
Yeah.
This is, and it doesn't mean that this is how it is. It just mean this is what we experienced.
This is where we are. Maybe
like this is where I believe we are, and this is, the landscape here. Getting people to change their behavior in payments is insanely difficult. Okay, and so this absolutely went into our new product. We're like, look. We're not going to be able to convince anybody to change the way they spend money anytime soon. Not in this way. Of course, Bitcoin, the macroeconomic climate, all this stuff, all the headwinds we're facing,
absolutely.
There's a lot of weird shit going on in the world. And Bitcoin is the answer to that and the medium to long term. And frankly, I think it's probably more beneficial if it happens over the long term instead of like some crazy abrupt, like sudden hyper Bitcoinization. Like that would be kind of chaotic, right, for people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take longer than we think from the payment side. But so we're like, well, how can we just get people some Bitcoin without changing their spending habits, right? Like, how can we just get them going and actually make it beneficial to the businesses? Because again, the businesses were eager to accept it and they were eager to do like rewards with it and everything. But we bottlenecked ourselves by saying, well, you have to pay in Bitcoin in order to do it, or you have to download this app in order to do it. You have to, even if we had fiat on there, that's still like a bottleneck. We're like, oh, so you have to like download this app and then you do this and you do that and then you do this. And so we're like, let's just integrate directly in with these businesses and provide them with a superior loyalty and rewards program where their customers can earn sats and sats back effectively just by shopping at their business without changing anything they do. They still go in the Shopify checkout or the Square checkout and they tap their card or swipe their card or pay in cash or pay however the hell they want. They can pay in Bitcoin on Shopify. Great. If you pay in Bitcoin, you get an extra bonus. So that's where we're going based on what we've learned.
Do you think, have you onboarded more, I guess, these businesses? Have you onboarded more businesses this way or previously? I would imagine. I would
say we've onboarded more businesses previously, but also previously it wasn't sustainable because we would onboard them and it's like, then what? So how many customers are going to come and buy from them? And ultimately, like in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that many customers. Every new customer is awesome for these businesses because now they're kind of like in their gravitational pull, right? They're like in their network, like, oh, I can send an email to this customer now, this business, and like, cause they bought from me and now I can, get them to buy from me again and become like a lifetime customer, which is great. But flipping it a little bit and now going, hey, like every customer you have, we're going to help you, nurture them and, get more retention and increase their lifetime value as a customer. And it makes it to where, there's a Bitcoin pitch there still, but for some businesses, it's just like rewards. It's just a really cool rewards program where it's an open network instead of a closed one. Like no one cares about your coffee points, but everybody, especially in some Bitcoiners which could become your new customers, care about the sats though. So it's a cool.
Yeah. Cause if you, and this is just me kind of thinking through it. Like if you were to, you have this Oshi loyalty rewards platform now. So theoretically, they should be coming to you wanting that the more and more, customers, hear about it. They're going to be like, well, down the street, they have like Oshi, I get sats back with blah, blah. Why don't we have it here? So and then it becomes like, oh, okay, well, I need to reach out and get that on board. And then it also just long-term, you could probably leverage it in a way where, let's say hypothetically, like Starbucks wanted to leverage your platform. I would imagine there's like some kind of API thing would be getting built. And then that just becomes a partnership. And then overnight Starbucks has, you can give me stars, but I'd rather have 50, I'd rather have sats instead. And then, so basically it just becomes more of that type of thing, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, and I can see in the future, maybe Starbucks utilizing an API. I mean, it would be cool if it was ours, utilizing an API to, offer Bitcoin rewards to their customers. But, it's probably more likely they're going to use something like Bakkt will come out with something where, that's something that Starbucks can do on their own. But, I mean, ultimately, customers are going to have the ability to decide what type of rewards. I think there's going to be a lot of businesses, some we're talking with, that's like, do you want to offer Bitcoin rewards as an option for your customers, right? Like that would be cool. And, people are pretty receptive to it. And so, I mean, we're going to have options to earn dollar rewards and Bitcoin rewards. Why? Like, fiat is trash, but a lot of people still like fiat, but like that's cool. We can still be a stepping stone. We're really trying to be, and we always have tried to be like a major gateway to the Bitcoin economy. Like it's a stepping stone for people. So now someone can just go to, a website, like you can go to Beef Initiative or Claire and Fritz or Farmer Bills or Renaissance.
Peony Wine.
We have like 30 different businesses.
Is it Peony?
Penny Lane.
Lane,
his site is a little more complicated. On our app, we can support that, but not directly through his site yet.
What's going on, Justin?
We're working on that.
What's going on?
We're working on that. But I mean, to have your everyday customers earn some sats and then bring in new customers that already love sats and want to discover businesses.
It's hard, dude.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard.
But it's cool. So it's fun. yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's certainly much easier than how we first started Oshi, but again, we moved this on this different path, same direction, same goal, different path, from what we learned. And
do you think as a founder, it was difficult to make that shift for you? Cause you had I guess it was more of a sidestep, but do you think, like, what did that teach you? I guess, any advice you could give out there to any founders in the Bitcoin space that are listening right now and said, okay, I know Michael had to make a sidestep here to keep going, and like, any advice you give out there?
yeah, I would say one thing is, being surrounded by Bitcoiners is awesome, and like being that community, your people, but don't forget about, the majority of customers and people out there, because, they're a stepping stone to profitability for your business. It's very difficult to cater like only to Bitcoiners, because in the grand scheme of things, there's so few of them. I mean, it's great to like niche down and get really niche and everything, but our business model was always about, reaching as many people as possible. But we really like, so I just say, don't bottleneck yourself. I think a lot of times there's this like, almost like a purity test in different Bitcoin products and services. It's like,
yeah,
oh no,
totally
like, I don't want to collect an email. Like that would be, that's like, I don't want to do that because of privacy and all this stuff. It's like, people that are privacy conscious are going to use a throwaway email, like whatever, like there's things like that, or, I'm going to do like these really fancy things, which are super cool. But like, how many people are actually going to use these really fancy things that you're spending a lot of time and effort? Maybe there's some tech debt there that you have to deal with to do something where it's like, why don't you just get it out there so as many people as possible can use it? And that's where, we do have some builders in the space that are building things, making, these things very seamless now. Like Primal with Nostr, it's like super clean, and it's because it's not meant for the hardcore Bitcoiner Nostr crowd. It's like, it's meant for everyone, like onboarding people, like this next wave of like adoption, let's say, right?
Right.
As seamlessly as possible. I think sometimes as Bitcoiners, we forget that, but during a bear market, I think it's people remember.
Yeah. People are just like, you're hit with all sorts of things, and you have to face those. Yeah. Cause it's either that or die. Right.
Yeah. So I guess ultimately the advice to founders is, just always keep an open mind. Like, don't worry so much about this purity test. I mean, do right, build ethical companies, of course, but, don't think you're too smart for your britches, right? I mean, always, and in terms of like merchant adoption stuff, by the way, like a shit ton of companies were working on stuff like this, like Strike, Ibex, OpenO, like all these companies were really focused on this merchant adoption stuff as well, right? And the market showed them otherwise. Or it's like, yeah, you can onboard the business, but then like there's no one there to spend it. So why does it matter, right? And you're seeing kind of like reversals and like scaling back of those different, say, merchant services with some really big, popular, very intelligent, companies with market research and all this. And so I think, it's easy to fall into these traps and
skate towards something that's not there.
Yeah, because you just don't have all the information yet, right? So again, businesses are always going to be willing to accept it. I think there's going to be a shit ton of businesses that are going to be willing to accept it this next cycle. It's going to be crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of businesses like really tripping over themselves to figure out ways and solutions to accept it. Right. So things like ZapRight would be fantastic. Like I'm probably just going to recommend just about every merchant go with ZapRight, especially I believe it's a win, not if, they get different plugins for like e-commerce and stuff like that. Because you can use any service you want for ZapRight and like use Strike or use Ibex or use whatever, OpenNode. I think businesses are going to be tripping over themselves, but I still don't think many people are going to be spending it.
There's this interesting thing I've started noticing recently, just in the startup space around Bitcoin companies. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing right now, like the ones that are going to be around, it seems, at least here in the short term, are the ones that have made themselves modular. If that makes any sense, where they fit in perfectly. Was it always that way? I don't remember ever being that way, or maybe it was just because a lot of people that I know and startups I know got started in the bull run, so it was like you kind of definitely had to stand out on your own. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that? Or am I seeing that right? Or
so by modularity, are you saying like on Zaprite you can plug in?
I think that's one example.
Yeah.
I think even yours is another example. I think if you look at some of these other places too, I know you mentioned Ibex and Fold earlier. Like,
yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's just because we're still very early.
Yeah,
and we're still fleshing things out. Like I said, I think a lot of people got pump faked with like the Bitcoin circular economy thing. And it's almost like, whenever you pump fake once, like it works really well. And then the second time it works a little less well. And then the third time, and then the fourth time, maybe you don't even bite. Maybe, I don't know, man. It's like,
because even on the AI, because I don't know,
that can trick you too. Because then the next time you think it's just another pump fake and it's real, and then like boom, like things take off.
Even on the AI side too, just seeing the AI space evolve with Bitcoin and like Nostr and all these sorts of things, like even there too, it's just feeling a little bit modular too as well. Like as far as the stuff that's coming out or people that are building,
like plugging in. I think it's just like.
Do you think that's just part of the bear market, or you think that's part of the bear market, or you think that's just like we're headed now?
Zapper and I both were effectively building that model out like from the start, where it's like, I don't want to make all the infrastructure myself. I mean, I think some of the biggest plays, much like, more traditional businesses of today, like aren't necessarily in building out all the infrastructure of like the payments infrastructure.
But it makes you wonder, why didn't OpenNode have, like why didn't they have that from a long time? You know what I mean? Because they were around for a really long time.
Well, they built out like all the payments infrastructure, right? And like and architectured it, and if that's like the right verbiage for it. But yeah, I mean, that was their model. It's like, hey, we're going to help facilitate all these payments for you. Like we're actually going to process these payments for you effectively. And so, and that's like what it's like to be really early, because you have to build it all out yourself. But the later it goes, you can be like, oh, like
just lean on Strike. Yeah. Lean on these other.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
whatever.
Yeah. If I'm starting my small business, makes sense, am I going to have to find somebody that's building payment processing from the ground up? No, I'm going to use Stripe, right? Like I'm just going to use one of these mini, like, I mean,
don't use Stripe. You'll get rug pulled.
Well, no, I'm saying
that's been proven multiple times.
Yeah. Sorry. But I'm saying like,
they rug pulled us.
If you're a fiat normie business, then you're like, what are you going to use? Like, are you going to try to build it from the ground up, or are you just going to use something, right? So all these different services and AI services and all these different things, like they're like, yeah, I'm not going to build out my own model from scratch. Like, whoa, like ChatGPT is so far ahead. Like we're just going to use their API and plug in, or maybe you can use another API for here. Maybe you can do this and that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really common in general now, where it's like, are you going to build out your own email services, or are you just going to allow them to connect? Do you think that's a sense of
maturity just in our space though? Like as far as like the Bitcoin space? Now
I suppose
we're mature enough to where now we can build module. I don't even know how to say that word.
Yeah. Like
build in this
things.
Kind of cascading way, I guess.
Perhaps. Yeah. Because like you're not having to build everything out from scratch anymore. Like there's already companies that have done that, and they do it well, or well enough to where you can lean on them, And of course, then you could say, well, that's counterparty risk. It's like, yeah, well, if everyone's going to build out everything from scratch, like it's going to take a long time to figure out what works. I mean, again, if Oshi had to like build out all of our payment processes from scratch, or, and do this, like that's why you have things like Voltage, right? Yeah. Like you can just use Voltage and use that, and then test your ideas on the market and see what works and what doesn't. Like, oh my gosh, if we had to build all that stuff out ourselves, like, wow, we might only just now be getting to the point where we test everything out.
Dude, that's a testament to a lot of the founders that are out there that have done this. Like dude, that's kind of cool that we've all been able to leverage each other's companies in some capacity, right?
Yeah. It's, and then that's the really cool thing is like I think oftentimes now it's like, it makes it to where everything's just API driven, which is very standard for how everything works in non-Bitcoin related stuff. Like it's all API driven. Isn't it something like 80% of all internet traffic is like API calls or something like that?
Oh, really?
I don't know. It's something crazy.
Sounds about right.
I remember hearing that. And yeah, I mean, it's just because everyone's like just plugging into each other's stuff, and that's just how it works. And we can talk about like self-sovereignty and all this stuff, but I mean, this is how the world works currently, and that's the way you grow your business.
Yeah.
And
Has there anything that has surprised you this bear market? Because like we were talking earlier on the other side of the lab, and you're like, Carl, we're at the depths of the bear. Is there anything that has surprised you this bear market? Or
I mean, it's been unusually long. I mean, I've only really been through, my first bear market was like 2018. I mean, it definitely seems quite a bit longer. And I guess, running a meetup, it's like you can see like the lack of interest in a lot. I mean, we still have, between, 40 to 60 plus people, at Austin Bitcoin Club, and there's other.
It's not at 200.
Yeah. It's not like, 150. I mean, if we have like someone, that's really popular, they have a huge following, then yeah, maybe we can get like 130 to 150 or something. But, yeah, I mean, I think just so the NGU is what brings people in. I mean, it's just what it is. And I think we just need to be now building is, you're building great products, keep building, like everyone keep building, and it's going to, pay off during this next cycle, I think. But, ultimately, like people get into Bitcoin for that NGU and everything that surrounds that NGU. Like, oh, now like everyone's talking really favorably about it. Oh, we have this ETF. Like Larry Fink is all like, Bitcoin is a flight to safety or whatever, and it's like, yeah, we're like, yeah, duh. But like no one else knows that. Okay. Like no one else cares. And once the price, and still no one really cares. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once the price starts going up, they're going to start caring. And then, we can capture, but, something that, has really been interesting in this bear market is just really thinking about creating sustainable business models that aren't reliant on just like NGU. So you could say like Oshi, loyalty programs for businesses like all over the world, native in their own point of sale systems or whatever, super easy. Like in a bear market, it's just like you get your coffee points at Starbucks or like from sats. Square or like whatever. Yeah. It's like just like that. It's like you could just call them sats, and maybe most people don't even know what that is. And like, cool, I got points. I do this all the time. Whatever, free points, sign me up. In a bull market, it's like this fucking crazy thing where it's like, oh my God, you're going to give me Bitcoin? I've been hearing about this all the time. I'm super psyched about it. I might even go to a meetup too. Like that's how psyched I am about it. And I've got like 1,000 sats, and like, this is going to change the world. And like, the people that just, think that coming in for the first time and they're like really getting hyped. So like getting to leverage that and the bull, but then also realizing that, maybe this time's different, Car. But realizing that, well, there's probably going to be a bear after this, and your business model like needs to be able to weather that. And ideally, not just like weather it from like a balance sheet perspective or a fundraising perspective or a runway perspective, but like, is your product still going to be appealing in some way, shape, or form to businesses or consumers during the bear run? And that's really where we tried to position ourselves, learning like businesses want to give Bitcoin rewards. They're fine accepting it, but it's like, if the customers don't care, then it doesn't matter. It's like you have an engine, and it's like the business owners are the engine of the economy, but the customers are its fuel. And if you don't have people like, using this Bitcoin rewards, and your engine is made for Bitcoin acceptance, then like you got to go to the shop.
So you're saying, so you're basically saying like building yourself a sustainable business that, can really shine during the bull market, but through the bear, it can also withstand the bear. Yeah. Right.
You could almost look at it like, let's say the oil and gas, like things like, upstream data, Giga, Cathedral, like there's a bunch of really cool companies, Satoshi Energy, where they're doing things that in the bear market, like they're still doing wonderfully. Like they're producing things of value that people are buying or utilizing in the depths of a bear market. In the bull market, it just gets that much better because their products and services are like, load balancing. Like, they're selling back to the grid during a bear and making a shit ton of money, or they're making equipment that oil and gas operators need to, reduce their flare gas. Win-win. They don't even have to give a shit about Bitcoin. But in the bull market, that gets way crazier and way more appealing for many different reasons, whether it's like a self-sovereignty reason or like a profitability reason or a FOMO reason or whatever the reason is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, ultimately that's how we do it. Like, can we as Bitcoin companies create businesses that work well all the time and work insanely well during a bull market? And I think many of us wound up creating products that just work pretty well during a bull market. But we're learning. We're all learning.
Yeah.
It's still young. The whole space is young. This isn't meant to be depressing. It's like there's some amazing companies that are totally building amazing products that are going to be good all the time.
Yeah, I think it's just, gosh, dude, it's so hard to think through that, and then being able to make the right decision there, and then being able to skate to it. It's really tough, but it sounds like you guys have it on lock as far as like how you see it playing out, which is good. That's just being a good intuitive founder, I think.
We're getting there, man. I mean, it takes every ounce.
Shout out JP.
Shout out JP. Yeah.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was really, I was more of the hardcore Bitcoiner whenever we first met.
Yeah.
And he is as well. But, I guess the bullishness went straight to my head as well, like it does for all of us. And he's always been a little more even keeled about things, which is wonderful. So really this loyalty idea of a loyalty program was something that he was kicking around a little bit. And we we're always kind of like, yeah, maybe this sounds good. But the more we talked about, the more it grew on both of us, but it kind of originated from him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
because
that.
he's like, nah, man, we just need to just sling these sats out and let's just make it super simple for people to earn it. But yeah, I mean, as a founder, sometimes it's hard letting go of that thing that you really thought would work. But so yeah, keep a level head, all the founders and builders out there. And just remember that most of the time, whenever you're treading in these uncharted territories, you're going to be wrong a lot. So always use data and feedback to determine your course of action. It's so easy to build something that nobody wants or nobody needs, or you think they're going to use it and they don't, or,
yeah, I know. I agree on all this. I could just me personally, the Pleb Lab thing is just from, when I took over in March, it was just I looked and assessed everything. It was what do we do really, really well? It's just helping builders and developers and startups and stuff like that. That's what we do really, really well.
Yeah.
And we're in a city where we have product market fit. Right. But that also doesn't equate to revenue, so for me, it was just okay, how do we just, amplify revenue as much as possible? But, and I think working through this kind of bear market, treading water and just making it happen every month and all that kind of stuff, you kind of start building up a thick skin on how to do it. Doesn't mean it's right, but you're building up a thick skin on how to continuously do it and still also, creating more builders, helping more developers, helping startups get pre-seed funding, all that kind of stuff. For me, it's cool. I think we've gotten that, pretty good. And we're only going to get better at doing all those things just because this is where our focus has been. But during the bull run, I would argue I don't know if we did any of that really, really well, or even,
Right.
you know, because it was just like it was so up in the air. But it did feel like we were getting a lot more attention, a lot more money than we deserve, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's why it's so interesting. It's like easier during the bull run, and like I think it's really easy to kind of lose your head a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
And think you're doing better than you really are. And I mean that goes for everything, but not just Bitcoin stuff. Like that's rampant, right?
Yeah.
So these are just like pretty, you know, regular problems that people have when building businesses. And yeah, it's like a unique position we're in, going from some crazy high, super bullish thing to like still very bullish, but it's the depths of the bear market. And it's like accelerated cycles. And it's like you age, you know, 10 years for every 1 year in Bitcoin or whatever. And
Dude, Nostr is it feels like you age every 30 days, another year in Nostr. It's so fast.
Yeah, it's also fast.
Yeah. Like,
That being said, like, you know, high risk, high reward, and, you know, catching these things really early.
Everything's moving so fast now, man.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, when I look at like the different segments of now this bigger, wider kind of community in Bitcoin, it's like you have the AI side, you have the Nostr side, and now you have like the Bitcoin and Lightning side. And to me, they're all moving at different speeds. When I look and try to, you know, keep up with this stuff, it's so, it's crazy, dude. Like some of the stuff that's being built in the lab right now on the AI side, it's just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And they're like showing me, and I'm like, oh, so this is how you would do. Oh, okay. And like, I'm learning just on the front lines, like how that's all going to work with Nostr and like, crazy stuff, dude. Crazy stuff. When you think about Oshi long term, are you looking at any of like the Nostr stuff or any of the AI stuff, or like, you know, even some of these, like some of the Lightning stuff that's coming in?
Yeah, you bet. You know, in terms of Nostr, we're thinking about different like affiliate programs and mechanisms for, once again, like the hardcore, like again, how big is it going to be with the everyday consumer? Probably not very right now, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing you always have to think about. But it would be really freaking cool to like just put in your InPub and become like an affiliate, like a DM with a special affiliate link for a particular business, and you can share it around and you get Sats commission like sent straight to your Lightning address.
Make like an Oshi army on Nostr.
Yeah, I mean things like that. We're kind of, you know, we're talking through.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because
but again, it's like I guess one thing, like as a founder, like there's been a lot of maturing, and I think a lot of founders in Bitcoin have like matured.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean,
who's matured? I haven't matured at all.
No, man, like you've like, you know, probably become a bit more pragmatic with your approach. Like whenever people are like, oh, well, why hasn't Square like implemented Lightning payments on their point of sale?
It's probably because they'll lose their Visa partnership, I would imagine.
Well, it's like they just know that.
Oh, you think it's the latter?
Is the juice worth the squeeze right now?
You actually think it's the latter? You think that's probably as far as like it's because no one would use it?
The latter would be, yeah. I mean, I think it would be. They've talked, of course. I mean, they had to have talked internally, and they're like, "Man, should we do this? This would
I don't know.
So cool."
Dude, I think it would be more because I'm not going to dox anybody, but I've had some talks with like some Visa and PayPal people, you know, during workshops and stuff. I would imagine it has more to do with them actually losing Visa or Amex or something there. Like you don't want to bite the hand that feeds, kind of thing. I would imagine, and there would probably need to be some massaging because
perhaps, but
do you think it more has to do with adoption?
Yeah, nobody would use it.
Bearish, dude. You're so bearish, Michael.
I mean, it's like now going back to what I was talking about Apple Pay earlier, in the EU and like Australia, they were more used to NFC stuff. Like Apple Pay adoption was way higher there than it is. So, you know, but then you're still running into the problem. It's like an entirely different currency if it's Bitcoin and Lightning. So, you know,
okay. So you're saying that, yeah, even if they did, they wouldn't. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, because, and then there's like poor press. There could be poor press. It's like, oh, like, I think isn't Square I thought someone told me recently, like, isn't Square one of the most shorted companies, like behind Tesla?
Shorted as far as like
Yeah, like people like, you know,
the
are
stock stuff?
bearish on it. Like anything that Square
Really?
does. Yeah, kind of like Tesla. Like,
Don't they- but isn't
Elon Musk talks and like trying to
isn't
bring
it
him
connected
down.
to Cash App and everything? So aren't they making like bazillions on the
Yeah, I think it's
the
a really,
Bitcoin side?
really good and healthy company, but also you get a lot of haters through that, right? And so my understanding is that it's a heavily shorted company. So there's always like people that just are looking like they just want to stick knives in the back of Square, like any chance they can get. So it's like, oh, they did Bitcoin. What a risky move. And like everybody wants it to fail. Like
I don't know.
Everybody wants it to fail.
I don't know. I maybe I'm thinking of Square and Cash App as the same thing, but even I feel like I saw a stat the other day that said Cash App is like one of the top 2 apps by Zennials or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
No, Cash App's doing amazing.
I
So
feel
is
like-
Square. I'm just saying people love to hate on like companies that are doing
Yeah.
like people love to hate on Tesla. People love to hate on Square.
Yeah.
People love to hate on these companies.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, what if they just totally flopped and we're like, yeah, we released our reports of Lightning usage. And there was like, you know, basically on average, like each business got 1 payment a month. And it's like, you know, maybe they spent a lot of money making this and doing this. It's like,
Oh yeah. Did you check out the River Lightning report? Did you see that last week that
I
came out?
did. Yeah.
Did
I
you
saw
read through
some
it
of
yet?
it. I did. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of payments,
Yeah.
but
You wonder if that translates to actual.
yeah, I mean, what is it, like 1 cent transactions? I
Yeah.
mean, is it streaming sats? Like, is it
Uh,
people sending like 1 sat a minute or a second on Fountain or like, and you know,
Well, I think they had certain companies they looked at, but I know what you're trying to say.
a
Yeah.
bear car.
No, you're not a bear.
I'm just trying to
you're being realistic about it.
I'm trying to be
Yeah.
realistic / like, I guess just really rational
about
about it. Like I'm a rational optimist. I'm super bullish on all things Bitcoin, Lightning, amazing companies
Yeah.
building amazing things in the space. It's absolutely maturing. It's absolutely getting like better to use, easier to use. Like everything's
100%.
great. Like everything's great, man. But I think we just really need to keep a level head
Yeah.
and realize that we got to build just great products. And I love the people that are creating like these super pure Bitcoin pure products and services that are like pushing people's like imaginations forward and pushing the self-sovereignty thing forward. All that stuff is amazing. But if you're like a company that needs to appeal to a larger audience, just keep it, you know,
I would say with
simple.
I would say with the Oshi rewards thing, you definitely have captured wonder. Like that to me is always a tell sign on like good founders and like the ones who end up, you know, standing the test of time is like, are they capturing wonder? And what I mean by that is like, do they give the user or the client, whoever it is, the chance to like, whoa, like a wow moment, like cause that's what it really matters. It's like the emotional connection that you have to these things, to these brands, to all this stuff. And I will say, when they get that sats back, that is wonder. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I like there's a dopamine thing, right? And like Keon has that with Snacker News, where it's just like a dopamine effect when you see that lightning bolt. So there's something about building that into the product. And some people are really good at it and some people are really terrible at it. And then some people just like copy others.
Yeah.
But like, it's always the ones who originate these wondrous, you know, implementations. It's always like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll eventually have to start doing surveys on some of our users because about half of them are withdrawing their sats. And that's really interesting because very few of them are Bitcoiners. Like I'm almost sure of it. Yeah.
Wow.
We don't have like a whole lot of Bitcoin specific companies on the majority of the sats that are being distributed aren't like Bitcoin companies. They're companies that are maybe like, you know, have talked about Bitcoin before, or maybe even not at all. So to have these companies like reward customers, everyday people with sats, and then those customers, about half of them will like withdraw those rewards right away. Presumably that's their very first Lightning transaction.
So you're
probably
saying,
their very first
They probably don't even have a
Bitcoin.
wallet.
Yeah.
So where are they?
Cash App, Wallet of Satoshi,
Okay.
Moon is what we like recommend right now. And again, just because Cash App is familiar, it's easy for people. They probably already have Cash App on their phone and they trust it. We're seeing like kind of like right now, I mean, arguably you could say, we should have Phoenix on there instead of Moon. But I mean, Phoenix, you still need like a channel open fee sort of thing, which is problematic if someone's earning like 3,000 sats and it's going to cost them 3,000 sats to open a channel.
There's something to be said about having too many options too as well.
Exactly. So right now we're like Cash App, Moon, Wallet of Satoshi, and there's kind of like a split, maybe like 30, maybe like a third in each. Like,
what's the most used wallet? Is it just Wallet of Satoshi that's the most used wallet right now?
The most people have been using Moon.
Okay.
That's the one we list second.
Oh, you can watch that. Okay, cool. So more or less like what's the
because we can see like the node ID.
Okay.
Like the destination
where it's headed.
Node.
And all that stuff's public
Moon.
anyway. Like,
yeah, exactly. So we can see like where they're sending out to.
Interesting.
Which is cool because then that can kind of help us measure like, wow, like a lot of people are using Moon, which is fine right now because the fees are low. Maybe like 1 sat per byte.
And you guys would never, because didn't Oshi have a wallet at some? I thought there is
like a rewards wallet.
It's a rewards wallet, right?
Yeah.
But I could send through there, couldn't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can't send into it. You can only withdraw your rewards.
I can only withdraw. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Y'all wouldn't make a wallet, right?
No, I mean we would rather just, again, it's like one of those things. Like, why would we build our own? Like, why don't let's just like use Mutiny or something,
Yeah, that makes sense.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be cool. Like,
that's interesting though, that the amount of because at some point you'll be able to figure out like the human behavior part of it as far as like on the business side, and then like the whole flow to get to the withdrawal side and how that ends up. So at some point, like Oshi's going to have a lot of this. I know, I trust you. They're going to have a lot of interesting data about how people, businesses, customers, clients potentially get onboarded and be able to tell that story from beginning to end with both bookends. It's interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Because again, we want to be a gateway. So what does that look like? Well, people earn sats almost unbeknownst to them. Like all of a sudden they just get an email that says, hey, you earned some sats from this business. And they're like, oh, freaking cool. Like, oh, hey, you're in this loyalty tier and here's a referral link. Or if you refer friends and family to this business, you're going to get, 10% commission in Bitcoin rewards, or you're going to get a 5%, lifetime commission. Every customer you send to us, like every order they make, you're going to get 5% commission on their purchases in sats, And then they're like, oh, that's cool. They earn some sats. And then immediately it's like, well, what do I do with these things? Of course you can save your sats, but you could also like go to Zebedee and like see different, gaming options. You can play games that earn more sats, or maybe you can go to like the Bitcoin company and spend some sats, and you can go here and there. Oh, here's a Bitcoin debit card you could use with Fold. Like if you want to earn more sats. Yeah. So we really want to be a gateway. We're not trying to create this super closed walled garden thing at all. We're trying to create a great product for businesses so that their consumers can earn some sats. And then those consumers are ultimately going to be like, what is all this Bitcoin stuff? Like where else can I earn more sats? And that's,
what, I just had a great idea right now. You were talking through all that. Have you ever thought of, and I'm pretty sure you already have this on the roadmap because you're thinking about this stuff. You ever thought about like, let's say like they get sats back, one of the customer gets sats back. It'd be cool to have an option where I could be like, send like 75% of these sats to my mom, to her email address. And then you orange pill 2 people instead of 1.
That's a good idea. Yeah. That'd be really cool. It's like, do you want to split these sats?
Like prism out the rewards. Just an idea. I don't sorry, JP, another thing you have to build out. No, I think that's a cool idea because then you're not only orange pilling the person that bought the thing, but you're like let's say like I can think of my sister, right? My sister would like, you go use whatever, and then she like, pays there, and then she gets the email, and then she says like, well, I don't want this, but I know Car does. Let me just send these sats over to Car. Or she's like, I don't want this, but maybe, a coworker of hers wants it. And then she sends it over to them instead. Or maybe she does a split. And let me send 50 to my brother because I don't want it, but I'll send it over to my coworker to onboard them. It's just interesting. An interesting idea. I don't know how the flow would work or what the UI would look like, but it would maybe just like enter an email and then it gets sent out to both.
That is interesting. I'm thinking of some things now in my head.
I thought you would have had that on your roadmap, but
no. I mean, I had somebody the other day talk to me about what if what if I could send somebody a referral link to a product or service, but they don't even really want the sats. So like, let's say whenever you refer somebody, like you get 10% of their purchase and then they get 10% back as well. He said, well, what if just all 20% went to me, because they don't want the sats. Like,
It'd be interesting to do that.
I just said, well, they could always just send them to you though.
Yeah.
Like you could always just claim the sats, like as an individual, like your mom could claim the sats and then like send them to you. Hey, Car, I got these sats. I knew you would like them. Here, I'm going to send them to you.
But for her, an email address would probably be easier.
Yeah.
Because she knows how to send an email.
Yeah. She can always just like send you the link though, like a unique link. So it's all, but I mean, we could always put something there. Like just share this link, share with a friend and like give them the sats. Sure. Here you go. Boom. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities.
There's
I like it though. I like where you're thinking. I mean, there's certainly
Prisms.
possibility.
Prism the world, I say. No, I'm just
Prisms. Yeah. See, that's where it starts getting complicated, but
yeah,
you're right. I mean, that would be neat. There's going to be so many cool things.
Yeah. What do you got lined up for the rest of the year with Oshi or just, personal stuff like that?
Yeah. So with Oshi, we just want to make it a beautiful product for merchants. So like we talked about the dashboard, give merchants more analytics so they really get a feel for how this is helping their business, exactly how it's helping their business. Like, have I gotten more referrals? Have I got more social media engagement? Have I gotten more like this, that, the other? Like, is my retention up? Like, is my acquisition like firing on us? Like, am I getting new customers I wouldn't have otherwise had? Like, what's going on? So really getting those metrics, it helps the product to sell itself as well.
Also helps the business side to justify it too, as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From there, really getting this open loyalty network going. So whenever you earn from a business, there's going to be a showcase of other earning opportunities.
Oh, cool.
So you can just easily where can I earn more? Oh, here's some other cool businesses that are, different, but I might be interested in, or I can earn more sats. So really like this cross-pollination where each business that joins our loyalty network, their customers are also going to discover other really interesting businesses that are also offering Bitcoin rewards. So it's in a way, it's like allowing these small and medium-sized businesses to kind of join forces and create their own loyalty network that could rival that of like Starbucks or rival that of like Target or Walmart, all these like massive loyalty networks that are like walled gardens because this company is so massive. Now you have this kind of like army of businesses that are offering a universal reward point with this army of consumers that want that universal reward point. And I think it's really exciting. So really flipping that switch, turning that on, and eventually we'll build out, a new app entirely, progressive web app and like iOS, Android, everything. So.
And that, oh wow. So then theoretically they could just onboard themselves into this kind of rewards platform, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. So, and even if we didn't have an actual like app store app, they could just click a link and then boom, like they get to see all the offers, they get to interact with it, which I think really needed. It's needed badly.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't want it to have somebody like to have to go through a certain channel with friction just to like see what you have to offer. Right. So
absolutely. Yeah.
An army of affiliates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This way, Larry Fink can, sign up too if he wants to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Get him on.
Yeah.
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade Your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change. Did you exchange a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in a cage? How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fears. Wish you were here. Wish you were here. Wish you